So today we're joined by Art Dowdy and Joshua Jessel, who were contributors on the chapter titled Single Case Research Designs. Art, do you mind introducing yourself first?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dr. Art Dowdy. I'm a board certified behavior analyst, and I'm a faculty member at Temple University, splitting my time between the applied behavior analysis department and special education department.
You want to go next, Joshua?
All right, I am Dr. Joshua Jessel. I am an assistant professor at Queens College, and my research interests are problem behavior, specifically with children diagnosed with autism.
Awesome. Actually, since we have you both here, I know we didn't really plan for this. How do you all see the interconnected fields of ABA versus special education?
Oh, that's interesting. So I'm glad you asked that, Corey. So that's actually one of the main reasons why I continue to pursue my academic career, was to kind of uncover the intersection between behavior analysis and special education. And I guess as far as my research now and continuing my research, I'm still trying to uncover that to an extent and investigate questions that bridge both of those areas. What I've found up until this point is the applicability of applied behavior analysis in a ubiquitous sense. However, it's highly applicable for individuals with special needs, primarily individuals with autism right now, however, not exclusive to. So I think as far as applied behavior analysis being integrated into the special education field, it's a highly valuable area to continue researching.
Awesome. Joshua, do you feel like left out of the circle since you're not in a special ed program? Do you feel like you're in the group?
I mean, it's interesting because, yeah, I am an applied behavior analyst by training, and that's where I'm guided towards, but I do consult, and my role is we're not quite integrated perfectly, right? We bring in behavior analysts to the special education realm to provide our service. In reality, like historically, we were always together. Special education was ABA and ABA was special education. That's where we kind of grew from in application. So there is a little splinter, but the procedures we use don't really differ that much. And our training, the basic training, comes from the same points.
Yeah. And actually, I think this question lends itself, this conversation lends itself to one of the questions I was going to ask you all. Do you think there's going to be a point when you've conducted enough research to disseminate this information to school settings?
Yeah, I would say at this point, and Josh, feel free to chime in at any point, but I would say that there's a lot of research already out there to implement very effective behavior change programs to aim to address challenging behaviors or teach academic skills. I think it's more along the lines of, bridging that research to practice gap and better disseminating some of that research that's already been done. However, I think there's also an area that needs further investigation with evaluating interventions across different settings that are more special education based.
Yeah, dissemination is a huge issue, not just in any specific field, but in applied behavior analysis, we're kind of feeling that the research and the practice, there's a little bit of a schism, and mainly my research trying to bridge that gap and to build dissemination so that what we learn from practitioners, what we learn from the school or from the educational setting influence our research to better help and make it more practical for those individuals. So we really need to get back into this sort of cycle of research and listening to teachers and educators.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I've even seen some people call it the research to practice chasm, just to highlight like how much work we have to do on this translation piece. Okay, so what advice do you have for beginning researchers? And maybe you can speak specifically in the using single case research designs.
Sure, yeah, I would say, I think for beginning researchers, something that's imperative is to not be afraid to give it a try. Under guidance, but I, at least like speaking from my own experiences, it's kind of intimidating at first to learn about single case and then conduct a research study, aim to add to the research that's already out there. It can certainly be intimidating. However, I think the best way to get started is just by doing it, and by doing it under guidance, and not being afraid to ask questions to those who have done it before, but still willing to give it their best efforts.
Yeah, I think what I would add would be that you're going to be taught how to use a reversal. You're going to be taught what a baseline design is, or multi-element, but there's no specific design that you have to use in a specific moment or research project. It's about being fluid and understanding how designs work to help us understand the functional relations. They're not specific protocols that we have to use. You're going to use them based on your education and your experience and how you want people to see and evaluate your data. So it's going to be hard for you at first, but the practice you have, the better you're going to be at using experimental designs.
Yeah, and I'll make a pitch here. Joshua did a really nice job in the chapter describing baseline logic, and that's kind of what you're speaking to here. Okay, and then we'll wrap up with the last question. Is there a moment when you recall clearly making a decision to be a researcher? Like, was there a moment where you're like, man, this is my calling?
Yeah, I think it was when I read all of Josh's ISCA stuff. I was like, this is the direction I want to go in. You know, I think collectively, like there's some merit in that. My previous comment, though, I think it's reading a lot of other folks' research and you know, having the will to make a contribution in areas that I felt necessary, you know, and felt that were that meant a lot to me as well. You know, I think those going through a master's program, especially in behavior analysis, a lot of it, you're very closely intertwined with the research that's being done in that moment, and also historical research. So I think to fill that niche personally, you know, that was kind of my driving force.
Yeah, that's better answer than I'm gonna have. I've just been influenced about being a different researcher. Actually, it's not like when did I want to be a researcher. It was these changing ideas of what a researcher is. So my first influence was Dr. John Barrero as an undergrad, and he kind of guided behavior analysis because he was just so motivated to being a researcher in the field. And so I just wanted to be him. I didn't want to be like a researcher. I wanted to be John Barrero. And then when I got my master's, I worked at the Kenny Krieger Institute, and that just made me want to be like experimental. Things about being experimental, no matter how much time it takes. You have to put being a scientist above being a practitioner. And then that flipped when I worked with Dr. Gray, where he taught me how to be a practitioner scientist and how to really use your skills as a researcher to help somebody or to help the population. So.
Yeah, well, this is great, guys. Thank you so much for being willing to share some of your feedback with consumers of this text.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for organizing this, Corey.
Yeah, glad to be here.